Michael Van Runkle here for HotCars.com. I'm here in the brand new Infiniti QX60, new for the 2022 model year. This is a pre-production car. It's a whole new design language from Infiniti. It's sort of bringing the QX60 from crossover status to almost legit family hauler, very luxurious SUV. This car has a 295 horsepower, 3.5 liter V6, and it's got a new, for 2022, 9-speed automatic transmission. This is the autograph trim in all-wheel drive, but you can also get this in front-wheel drive only because it's a transverse mounted V6. But the question is, after all the teaser photos and the official unveil earlier this summer, how does it drive? It actually takes me a little while to even get used to the touch screens. You can go between Apple CarPlay, you can use the actual buttons, you can choose your audio, the map. It just sometimes does go straight back to Apple CarPlay, and then you gotta go out. And if you get a text message while driving it, it goes away from the navigation, which isn't great. Right now we're on the road here just cruising, and the nav seems good, but personally I'd probably use the nav in my phone through Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, I guess. The haptic controls for the HVAC, meanwhile, it's a really cool layout. It does reflect the sun in your eyes a fair amount, which is always a concern with a largely digital dash setup like this, but they're pretty good. It just, you have to sort of touch and hold or push really hard to actually make changes, and then it goes in, it goes da-dunk when it's actually worked. I think I could get used to it, but at the moment, it's sort of like, I can't just go boom. Like that didn't do anything. I gotta and hold. So the idea of the haptic feedback is that you don't have to take your eyes off the road, but in order to hold it, you sort of do. Again, another thing that I might get used to as I get used to basically a brand new car, when I'm more accustomed to driving a 1998 Mitsubishi Montero that has none of this stuff. In terms of other little technology features, you can switch between all of these different displays in the instrument cluster here. You got a compass, you got your tire pressures, you got your fuel economy, which I've been watching, still at 28.6, doing pretty good just for cruising. You can switch up the screen here. This knob controls both that and that, which gets a little confusing. You've got all these different camera settings, but as far as I can tell, you can't use them when you're in Apple CarPlay, which is kind of annoying. Other cool tech functions, you've got a head-up display that you can turn on and off. It shows the speed and the speed limit, which is helpful. Oh, and it's pretty accurate. I've literally watched it as I pass the speed limit sign, like right there, it changes. It literally just changed as we pass that speed limit sign. That's pretty impressive. We've got Infiniti and Nissan's Pro Pilot Assist function. I turned it off because I'm always going over the lane just to see what's ahead, and because I just don't like it when the steering wheel vibrates. You know, if I was on cruise control with the adaptive cruise control and I was falling asleep on the freeway and not wanting to pay attention, maybe I'd leave that on, but personally, I don't like that kind of stuff. You got auto stop start for when you're in traffic or in town. They've got their own nav system, or you can use the nav through Apple CarPlay. The rear view mirror has this really interesting function where it's a camera and a mirror simultaneously. So if you flip back and forth from here, it's either a mirror, and it's not like you're flipping back so that you have the nighttime reflection. You go to a full-on screen that shows from a camera what's directly behind you. It is flipped, so it's like it's mirrored, but it takes a little bit of getting used to because you can't go like this to change your viewing angle. It's just static with that specific camera angle. I don't really like it particularly, but if you had 7 people crammed in here and gear and pets and groceries, you wouldn't be able to see out the back because the visibility honestly is really bad already, and if you added a bunch of stuff and people, it would be basically nothing. So the camera does add that extra level of safety when you're packing this thing to the brim, which is basically what Infiniti thinks the average customer will be doing at all times when they're not commuting to and from work on their own. The seats, which Infiniti made a big deal about, they're like zero gravity captain's chairs, are actually super comfortable. I'm about 6'1". You can see I've got plenty of headspace here. I actually moved the seat up a little bit to feel more like I have a better view of the nose, which is pretty large in front of this pretty expansive dash. It's rare that I don't have a car seat all the way down and pretty far back, but in this one, it's much more of an upright driving position, which I kind of like. Very comfortable again. Got the ventilation, my absolute favorite thing. They're also heated. There is a massage function, which is kind of a gimmick. It basically just adjusts the lumbar support and goes like push, 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 push. It's not like roller balls or anything like that. Now, a 295 horsepower V6 might not sound all that impressive in what's probably around a 5,000 pound SUV. With all of these creature comforts, all the technology, it's moderately heavy, but it doesn't feel like it because of that 9-speed automatic transmission. It's got the gear ratios to be fast off the line and cruise with ease at low RPMs, giving it pretty good MPGs. I reset the trip computer on this about an hour and a half ago, and I've been averaging 28.6 miles per gallon just on lightweight cruising, but I have been letting the other QX60s ahead of me sort of go past so I can floor it. That does bring up one of the major issues. Maybe 9 speeds, 9 gear ratios is a little too much, because this transmission does seem like it's just constantly searching for the right gear. So, you know, if you're going the same speed and you go to this little uphill like we're on right now, it downshifts very well, very smoothly, and it's perfect. But if I floor it, it takes a while to kick in because I think it just downshifted like 3 or 4 gears. It's like a serious lag. Here's an example again. I'm gonna push it now, and then I get pulled back at least a full second later. For the family-focused buyer that Infiniti designed this whole QX60 around, that kind of lag makes you a little nervous passing on the highway or accelerating. It could be borderline a safety issue, and it really means you have to pay a lot of attention while driving. And the whole purpose of this sort of luxury SUV is that you can focus on your family, and the car just feels like an extension of your personality on the road, and you don't have to be worried about, okay, I better punch it before I get to that opening. It is kind of funny that the 9-speed does have paddle shifters, so if you were paying that kind of attention, you could actually downshift a few in advance. Now I'm up at 4,000 RPM, and now it's got plenty of responsiveness. But if I don't do that, then it has that serious lag. It also, just driving around town in Napa Valley where we started out today, it gave me a little bit of trouble. You come to a stop sign, and if you try to go, it's like the first inch of throttle pedal travel does nothing, and then all of a sudden it kicks in. Now those 20-inch wheels do make enough room for some pretty solid brakes, which I'm sure is comforting to anyone with a family who is the target customer for this car. The brakes have good bite, they're nice and firm, there's not a ton of pedal travel, it's really predictable, and they're strong. This thing does have a towing rating of 6,000 pounds, which is enough for a pretty good sized boat. They were showing promotional images with a 22-foot Airstream trailer, which seems like it might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'd give it a try. But you gotta have good brakes if you're gonna be towing up to 6,000 pounds. That's with the all-wheel drive version, mind you. I don't think the front-wheel drive will have a 6,000 pound towing rating. In this QX60, the suspension is definitely the star of the show. This thing, coming around this bend here, absolutely no body roll. It's crazy. It almost handles like a sports car. I'm totally blown away by that, and it brings me back to like the mid-2000s FX45, which was kind of a funky looking little SUV at the time, but you could get it with an all-aluminum V8 and the same Atessa all-wheel drive system as in a Skyline GTR. It was awesome. My friend had one. It was fast, and it drove really well. It was on rails. This thing is almost as good, even though it's bigger. It's taller than the outgoing QX60, it's wider, it looks more sporty. In terms of technology for the drivetrain, we've also got the ability to switch between 5 different drive modes: snow, eco, auto, sport, and personal. And those settings affect the steering weight. I like to keep it in sport for that, for some firmer steering weight. And they also affect the throttle mapping. I don't think that that's really as much of a big deal If it's gonna affect the shift points, maybe, and it seems like it does because it keeps you in a lower gear, which is probably better for the responsiveness and reducing that lag as the 9-speed tries to find its proper gear ratio. So far, I'm liking Sport the most in the hopes of reducing that throttle lag, and it gives you the tightest steering. It's electronic variable power steering. It's okay. It's pretty good for electric power steering, which is never very good. It doesn't really return to center very well, and it's sort of like it plays it there and it turns. It doesn't have like good turn in like you would want, but hey, the entire industry is now basically electronic power steering, and it's a real shame. In terms of exterior styling, you can see a little bit of Infiniti's past, but they're hoping that this SUV represents the future design language. It's pretty good. You got a little bit of Lincoln, you got a little bit of Range Rover. It's got a gorgeous bowed windshield. It's got the sloping roofline of the sort of coupe SUVs from like BMW, Mercedes, and Audi. On the interior, we've got all these incredible materials. Very high quality leather. You've got real wood grain on the dash. Another kind of leather up here, which is actually even nicer. Some of it is sort of plasticky and cheap feeling though. Right here above the instrument display, this headliner material is very cheap feeling. The sun visors are enormous, which I like, and they do the thing where they slide, also like that. But the stitched cloth just feels very plasticky and artificial. But then there's also just design decisions. Like there's USB ports, but they're all the way under here, and you can't put your hand, you have to like push them in like that. Come on guys. There's also USB ports in here, and there are 7 total in the car, which is pretty good. It's got wireless charging, and you can touch everything on here, wireless CarPlay. I've actually had to wire my phone in though, because one major complaint I have is you can't connect a new Bluetooth device while you're driving. Now you can get the QX60 and up to a 7-seater. This is a 6-seater with the captain's chairs in the second row. They're heated, they got the same quilting, they're very comfortable, they fold forward. There's a little center console that's easily removable so that you can open up access to the 3rd row. And the 3rd row folds flat. You can fold it back up with a touch of a button. They've got these nice little straps so that you can pull it up without having to lean all the way in. The headrests fold down. Speaking of headrests, they're pretty nice headrests. Very comfortable, they're narrow. They didn't put screens in the back for the kids because they figure all the kids have iPads anyways. But the whole point of the car is to make it so that you're not thinking as you're driving. This is supposed to just be the perfect road trip vehicle for a family, to run errands, to go to the grocery store. And for that, I think it does pretty well. Every buyer will have to get used to their new car, of course, and I've only had a couple hours here today. But I hope I've educated you a little bit on what it's like here on the inside driving the new QX60 that Infiniti really hopes will take the brand to a new level and compete a whole notch above the likes of the Acura MDX. Thank you for watching, and as always, before you sign off, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out.